Hey, this is Betty, and I'm back with I'm Just Saying. And today I want to talk about child disappearances and kidnappings in the United States. You know, every journalist remembers, I think, their first byline on the front page of the paper, remembers their first big story on TV. And I remember when I came into journalism in 1980, there was something going on in Atlanta. And my first big story was covering a candlelight vigil for the so called Atlanta child murders, the victims of the Atlanta child murders. Starting in about mid 1979 to 1981, 28 or 29 uh, African American youths in Atlanta disappeared, kidnapped. Many times their bodies were found, and it ended up that the person accused of the kidnapping and who was subsequently arrested was an African American man named Anthony Williams. And Anthony Williams seemed to be an ordinary guy, didn't set off any alarms right away, but he was captured. But because those murders got a lot of attention, it took some time, but the police were able eventually to track Williams down and to prosecute him. 28 or 29 young people die in a community or disappear in a community, and it got attention. But every day across the United States, young people are disappearing. And I was prompted to think about this because back in 2014, I believe it was, a radical Islamic group in Nigeria called Boko Haram raided a school in northeastern Nigeria and mass kidnapped 300 girls. 300 girls. They took them into the jungles or wherever they went, and that was a political capture of these 300 girls. Not all of them have even been released to this day. But that mass kidnapping set off international outrage. And Michelle Obama, the president's wife, the first lady of America, joined women all around the world in this campaign called Bring Our Girls Back. Sororities and women's organizations and others, and we all made our signs and we all took photographs of ourselves with the hashtag Bring Our Girls Back. And as I said, the campaign had some effect. It brought attention to these little African girls who were captured, and all kinds of things we learned subsequently were done to them. Many of them were impregnated, but it was political mass kidnapping. Now, children disappear for all kinds of reasons. Some children run away from home. We know that. They're saying that some of the young people who disappear are doing it as part of gang initiations. Some children disappear because they're abducted by strangers. But strangers' kidnappings tend to be a small number of kidnappings. Unfortunately, the stranger kidnappings often end up with the children being dead. Many of this situation with the runaways and the kidnappings involves a parent or some other family member who is in a custody battle for the child. I thought about this the other day, all of this stuff about the kidnapping of children, when I read this article by my friend Cortland Malloy. It was published in the Washington Post on March the 14th, and it talked about these African American girls, all kind of similar build and stature, color, and all of that, in Washington, D.C., who had disappeared. And Cortland's point and the headline on the article talked about the fact that too few people know about it. And there's this line, and it may be true and it may not be true, but there's the sense that when black children disappear, there's far less effort to find them. That in fact there is not the outrage there is when a child, say, who is white and blonde and even middle class disappears. But poor black children disappear every day in this country. And it seems as if the only people that often know about it are the people in the neighborhood, the people in the community. And there's also just a sense that there is a racial aspect to why so many African American children who disappear, that nobody seems to look for them in the big way that they do for the Natalie Holloways, for example, the kids who should matter or who do matter more to people. But these young black children, they are somebody's children too. And I'm wondering what is the campaign that we can lead, maybe, I hope, with African Americans in the lead, that says hashtag bring our babies back as well. The same way we could have an impact internationally about the black girls kidnapped in Africa, that we need to have a campaign here in the United States. I looked it up, and according to the FBI crime statistics for 2014, nearly 30% of all missing persons in the U.S. under 18 years old, all the 37% of all missing persons under 18 in the U.S. who were missing were black, a disproportionate number that some see as a reflection of how law enforcement nationwide handles these cases. So 37%, and the last I checked, about, I think, 2,000 young people disappear every day. They disappear. And of the disappeared, in 2014, nearly 37% of them under 18 were black. And there's a sense that if this was mostly white kids, mostly middle class kids, or even if this was cars that were disappearing, that in fact there would be a lot more outrage than there is now about these missing children. Now we have, when I'm just old enough to remember when we started with the missing children cases, and they were on the milk cartons, and the faces of the children were on the milk cartons. Well, I think that whole program has been disbanded. And today we do have more sophisticated techniques for finding children. And it is true that most children who disappear are eventually found, and many of them found alive, or they come home on their own. But what I'd like to know is where is the outrage that these disappearances are happening and we don't know about it? Yes, there's Amber Alert, and yes, there are the pictures in Walmart. But I'm talking about a campaign, a sustained campaign, that will say, bring our babies back, bring our children back. One person said that we can, in fact, have an impact, just like we did with the Boko Haram girls, and we brought that to the attention of the world with our hashtag, bring our children home. One person has said, and I think it's a great idea, that maybe professional women, we need to make this our cause, to bring the children back. We are the mothers, we are the big sisters, we are the grandmothers. We know that when children disappear, we should have an impact. We should not find ourselves all alone trying to make our case, trying to bring attention to our case, trying to say, somebody look for my baby. They're talking about more and more people are putting up just little posts saying, have you seen my nephew? Have you seen my niece? Have you seen my cousin? I want us to have a campaign to bring our children back. I'd like to get ideas about what we can do to draw more attention to the issue of disappeared children in America, and especially African American children. Our children matter. Black lives do matter. And as Courtland Malloy, in his article in the Washington Post, he quoted something from James Baldwin, or at least paraphrased James Baldwin. And it said, in effect, that Black Lives Matter must matter to Black people, who are the victims. So I think the leaders of this campaign to find disappeared Black children and to bring them back, maybe not to their homes, which may or may not be safe, but to bring them back to somewhere where they can be kept safe. And if they can't be brought back, those of us who are professional, who do have platforms, we need to be the ones to say, hashtag, bring the children back in America. Bring back the disappeared children in America. Reopen the cold cases of children who've been disappeared for so many years, and all we have is dead ends. So bring our children back. When I think about those Atlanta murders and my first story of those disappeared Black kids, that could have been a story that didn't get a lot of attention, unless because there were so many of them in such a short time span that it did get attention. But now we have social media. We have the ability to help families whose children are disappeared and say, let us all join in and keep them safe. And then when we do get them back, if we find out, for example, that the girls and the boys are runaways, let us, who are professionals and so-called successful people, let us be the ones to work with them and to talk to them and to say, to try to figure out why they ran away and what's going on with them and what can we do to encourage them, to be role models for them, to show them that yes, things may be tough at home, but maybe running away is not just the answer. We need to, instead of have these children run away, hopefully they will run to us. Hopefully they can look at us and say, well, maybe if I got something on my mind, I can talk to Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so. I know as a member of a sorority, I know that we have programs that work with young people. Most of the sororities and the fraternities that I know, we have scholarships. We do things for young people. But I'm hoping that maybe the sororities, the fraternities, the professional organizations will consider having programs where we specifically target children who have run away or either candidates likely to run away, and that we can intervene in some way to stop this from happening. Meanwhile, I don't know, hashtag bring our American children back who are disappeared. I'm just asking the question, when are we going to pay more attention to the African American children in this country who are disappeared? For whatever reasons they have disappeared, and what can we do to stop this epidemic? And I appreciate again Courtney Malloy at the Washington Post for drawing attention to this issue. And I appreciate all the people in law enforcement who spend their time looking for these exploited and missing children. But I think the rest of us have something that we can do as well. So let us build programs in the community that are directed toward children who are potential runaways or who have run away, and see what we can do to save them, create opportunities for them to not run away from us, but to run to us. Thanks for watching, and I'm just saying, give me your ideas about how to save the babies. Thank you.